Hey guys, what's up? It's Darkmeg here and welcome back to another dungeon preview. Today, we're having a look at Waycrest Manor, and this one, so far, is my fave. This dungeon is absolutely amazing, hats off to Blizzard. The design, the look of the mobs, the actual look of the dungeon, the feel, the fact that it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. You're kind of locked into that adventure, but there's different ways that you can go. So like Archway, where you have the option to go left or right, well, you don't have the option. You're locked into going left or right depending on what's available. This has 4 options: bottom left, bottom right, top left, top right. And each time I've zoned in, it has been different. So I don't know how they'll work that from a Mythic Plus perspective, whether it'll be, you know, the same for a week every time you actually put a key in. All other times it might be different, I don't know. But it certainly makes for an interesting sort of learning experience when you're learning this, because you get used to going a certain way to find a certain boss and then it completely changes, or progressing through the dungeon. So one thing that's really awesome about this is obviously the layout. You're in a giant manor that you're moving through, but the mob density is huge. So there's so many large packs in here. It's going to be really big fun times for AoE classes. And you can see we have a Windwalker in our group and damage meters are working now, and Windwalkers are still fucking carving shit up. So it's a 5 boss dungeon, and this is the first boss that we come across going the bottom right pathway, which is Ral the Gluttonous, and he's like Bebop met Meatloaf and had a kid. So he's in the kitchen. You can, in normal obviously, you can just drag all of the mobs in this room straight onto him and start AoEing them down. The mobs in this room have a silence and really not too much else, which we all got hit by before. Ral doesn't do a lot. He has this tenderize ability. It's a large frontal cone. It takes up, the animation's not super great on the ground. You can see those little circles there. So they'll probably make that maybe a little bit clearer, but you just have to pay attention. He'll cover the whole room in 3 smashes with that. And then he does this ability called Call Servants. So the Call Servants is like that first boss in Blackrock Hold that calls the servants and they start pathing to her. You just want to kill them before the servants get to him, which you can see we did quite easily. That's obviously going to be harder in higher difficulties and higher keys. And he'll also do this expel, I don't know what it was, which is just leaves green pools of shit on the ground that you don't want to stand in. It slows you. So after him, you're moving along the corridors, and this is what I was talking about mob density wise. You're able to chain all of this stuff together and just go absolutely big dick. And this manor is full of pools like that, and because it's all corridors and things like that, it grants great opportunity for line of sight, kiting and things like that. Then you've got a courtyard out here. Again, you're able to pull like a massive load of mobs out here. I can't wait to see like what the super players do in here in regards to how big they're going to be able to pull and what they're going to be able to achieve. In terms of a dungeon and not knowing where you were going, it only took like 18 minutes to get through this dungeon, and that's not knowing where we were going, which is pretty quick, I think, for a normal introductory dungeon. Generally, I would think they're more around 20 to 30 minutes, maybe. So I think there's going to be really quick times, like coming out of this dungeon in particular. I don't know why, that just gives me that vibe. This is the second boss, which is Soulbound Goliath. So he summons these little like soul root things from the ground that you need to DPS down ASAP. He then does this soul harvest. Now every time he hits me, pretty much he gains a stack. Now I didn't bother going to read this ability, so I'm not sure if this is how it functions, but you can see he is getting a stacking buff every time he hits me, which is increasing his damage. So I don't know if as the tank when he gets this, if you are supposed to actually run away, or if it's just a DPS race before the stacks get so high and he kills your tank. Regardless, you can obviously see on normal, it doesn't do a lot, so it's not really a problem. There's obviously going to be a very different story come high keys and tyrannical. So that'll be a really interesting boss to actually figure out how to do properly, I think. Once he's down, we're moving on to the other side of the mansion, onto the other side of the manor. I get this real mansion kind of vibe, like Resident Evil from this, even though it has nothing, well, they're undead, they're kind of zombies. We're moving to the Ballroom, which is the third boss, and again, there's multiple ways to go here. Up, down, corridors, like left, right, it's crazy. So on to this boss. So doing this boss, I actually had no idea how this worked, and I thought it was a proximity thing. So you can see how the two of those mobs have their blue glowing shield around them. And I thought if they were in proximity, they would get a shield. What actually happens is one becomes unshielded and two stay shielded. And the shield just drops and rotates between them. Or the two shields rotate between the three mobs. They're not affected by silences or anything like that. They're immune. I would imagine it would be the same case for CC. Pretty much, it kind of seems like you just want to clump them up and AoE them down and just obviously focus the one that has no shield on them. Whether or not it's going to be one of those things where you can see they all cast different things. So one's casting the Ruinous Bolt, one's casting Bramble Bolts or Barbel Bolts or whatever the fuck it is, I can't read it. And the other one's casting Soul Bolt. So whether or not it'll be figuring out sort of what one does the most damage and assigning interrupts to that and just being able to live through it, I'm not too sure. It's Bramble Bolt. Should have just known that. But yeah, it was a cool boss. It's definitely not the best one in here, but again, it was interesting. And as I said, I thought it was a proximity thing first, but it's just one of those things where one is available where they can take normal damage, and that's the one you want to focus, and you just want to continue to switch targets. Once those three bosses are down, the door to the cellar becomes open. Now, if you got the bottom left option, you end up being all the way over the... if you got the bottom right option, you end up being all the way over on the left side of the manor. You actually have to run all the way over to the right side of the manor again to get down to the cellar here. And then you descend into the catacombs. There's a nice little invisible wall here. And then we move all the way down to the bottom here where the fourth boss is. And again, it just has a really cool look. And I probably didn't do a great job in this recording in regards to looking all around the dungeon, so I apologize for that, but the setting is amazing. It's like this mix between Resident Evil, Ghostbusters, Haunted Mansion, and like Stranger Things. It's just, they just did a really good job. I am so full of praise for this dungeon. So this is Lord Waycrest and Lady Waycrest. This is the fourth boss. And I don't know if you can jump that River of Bad. I haven't yet tried. I would imagine it's probably invisible walled, but I don't want to be the guy in the group that jumps it and dies. So I'll probably end up trying that today, but pretty much what happens is you engage him. Lord Waycrest jumps over, Lady Waycrest doesn't follow. She'll be throwing this shit from, you know, the back that you don't want to stand in. When he gets low, she also swaps HP with him and heals up. So you can see in the top right, which again I was going to like point to the screen, you can see in the top right Lady Waycrest, who we haven't damaged, is on quarter HP and he has gone back to full HP. So it's like a life swap mechanic that keeps occurring. Eventually Lady Waycrest jumps over here and you're just able to like just AoE them down and stack them. Nothing's really happening. Now whether or not all the mechanics are in place yet, this is again normal, so it doesn't really matter. She does this cast, again, it really doesn't do any damage. There's nothing going on the ground to avoid. So I don't think everything is probably implemented for this boss yet. As you can see, there's basically no damage whatsoever going out, and the dungeon's only just been added. But that's going to be, I think that's going to be an interesting fight. I'll be interested to see what they do with it. As soon as they're down, the River of Bad kind of becomes available to jump in, and you can run and you can just drag all these little mobs that you come across down into the next room, which takes you straight to the final boss in here, which is really cool because you move straight from that fourth boss pretty much 20 yards away to the final boss. So it's a nice little transition without a lot of trash or anything like that. And this is the last boss in here, which is Gorak Tull. He's really cool. He's like a tree, old, dead, zombie, White Walker kind of thing. I don't know. He's cool though. He looks really cool. I don't actually know the story through here because I'm just really bad at paying attention to that stuff while we're questing. And there's been lots of tie-ins to Waycrest Manor through the leveling. I just haven't really paid any attention. He doesn't do a hell of a lot. He does this Dread Essence, which I'm assuming is going to be like maybe an AoE, and it also resurrects the slavers I think he's been summoning throughout it. Again, he casts a Lightning Bolt, doesn't do a lot of damage. The slavers don't do a lot of damage, they'll cast Dread Bolts. He continues to summon slavers throughout the fight, and he continues to res them as well with that ability. So obviously, in higher keys, I imagine, the longer this goes on, the more ads you're dealing with, the more damage that's coming out, and that's how this is going to work. But on normal, again, we don't really get to see much of that. So that is it, guys. That is Waycrest Manor, and you know, from a first off vibe, I just think it is a sensational dungeon. There's this like haunted Stranger Things pool of bad. Yeah, it's really cool. Really keen for everyone to check this dungeon out. I really enjoyed it. And that's it, guys. Thanks very much for checking out the video. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. See you guys.